Okay. All right. Well, hi, Jonathan. I'm here with Jonathan Emery, and this is a window into the heart of a man interview series. So today we are going to be talking about all things related to men, their love for women, uh, your just we're going to explore a man's relationship to being in a relationship with a woman. And I always like to say ahead of time, because like nowadays there's like so much confusion about genders and all that. So when I say man, I am referring to biological male who has the biological amount of testosterone that is related to being a man, and just has like masculine energy. And same thing with a woman. A woman is someone who has much more estrogen and has like feminine qualities and feminine energy. So I'm just going to say this ahead of time so that there's like no confusion later on. Okay, so welcome, Jonathan. And the first thing I would like you to do, just tell us a little bit about yourself, and not just because obviously everybody has a career, and typically like people focus on the career aspect. But what I like to know, aside, of course, I want to hear about your passion in terms of work, but I also want to know more on a personal level. What are you committed to in your life? What's important to you in life? What are your values? um and just anything you want to share that is kind of more personal, but that makes you who you are, the man that you are.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. And yeah, if you feel free to just call me John, we'll just keep it short and cut out some seconds here for you. Uh, but yeah, so asking me about personal stuff, values, mission, and a vision. I'll be honest with you, I have it on my wall over there. I have it on my wall over there, and it's on my phone. So something I went through about a year ago when I hired a leadership coach. We just went into it, and it was something new for me. So, you know, whoever's listening to this or watching it, try to do this for yourself, because you can go to a corporation, you can go to a company and work for some place and they have their values, mission, and vision, but create something that's for you, right? And this is your own personal values, mission, and vision. So I can't read it from here, but for me, from what I remember, I want to continue to grow, right? That's where I want to head in life with my vision. In those areas of being more fit, focus on myself mentally, emotionally, relationship wise, intimate and non-intimate, uh, also with spirituality, and then of course business and finance. Like those, like they're the five areas I look at, and every day I gotta keep showing up to say that I am pursuing that vision in some kind of behavior. So, for me, the values I have is being authentic, loyal, kind. I'm trying to read them from here. Growth and love. Those are the five. So I had a whole sheet of about 100 some values, and to take that down to five is pretty hard. But you can find that, and you can also go ahead and take one away, replace it with another one. These don't have to be concrete throughout your whole life, or you can add more. It doesn't have to be just five, but I got it down to five, and those that way I can focus on those five. But that's what I have for that part right now. If feel free to ask questions on that or anything else.
Yeah, well, maybe a little bit a slightly different question. So in terms of what's your relationship status, and oh my gosh, I forgot the other question. Okay, let's relationship status, and hopefully I'll remember the other
Yep,
question.
single father, just doing my thing with podcasting and stuff. So I'm not really out looking for anybody. I believe I found my purpose, a passion, and that's just kind of what I'm looking at the moment.
Cool. Very cool. And just because like I like to interview men of different ages, so if you just can tell us how old you are.
Sure. So I'm 44.
34. Cool. Okay, great. So now, because women really want to know that. It's very important for some reason. I don't know why. But
Okay.
okay, great. So let's okay. So it sounds like I really love, especially like when you mention so kindness, love. So you are a person, at least kind of that's what I'm getting from you. You have depth, like it's not just because like a lot of, surprisingly, a lot of men think that men are really superficial, which is so not true at all, because like I've been talking to so many men, and men are not superficial at all. I think the problem is that women, especially like when women talk to men, we don't give the men space to actually express what's inside, so let's see if we can do this today. So as I mentioned before we started recording, the first question I always like to ask is, so what do you love most about women? Like what do you find most special about women?
For me, I think it's trying to figure you out in a way, right? That's what it is for me. And obviously after everything I've been through, I kind of see things in a different light now. And so now I can bump into somebody and kind of look at them different, right? Not that they're horrible people or the best people in the world, but you can see them coming at a different angle sometimes. And you're definitely emotional creatures. So men have to sit back and just like take that in a way, and you know what I mean, and relax. Like, don't get angry over it. They're not angry at you. It could be something else. But that's what it really like intrigues me, is trying just to like where are you coming from? That's what is, yeah. For a woman, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Okay, and so let's the emotion part. So how does it impact you when, like, because for example, I'm a very emotional woman. Like oh my gosh, I think I'm more emotional than most women. But anyways, like there's like different spectrums. So like, how do feminine emotions impact you?
Yeah, so I want to say that I kind of bounce them off in a way, right? So I've read some books and stuff like that. And so I'm not taking things personally, right? You could have been having a bad day. Maybe you came home after work or whatever, and you're just expressing it to me, but you couldn't express it to somebody else, right? So, I have to look at it as like just laughing it off a little bit. Obviously we're supposed to try to, not supposed to, but it's best to get you in that play mode again, right? Like, come back to reality. Like, it's okay. Let the things go. Because that's how we look. Like, men don't care sometimes, right? We just like, okay, go move on to the next thing, right? But you're thinking of everything that's already happened, and it just keeps going on throughout the day. Um, yeah, so just thinking about, like, if you were to share with me, are you, like, for example, I guess if you were crying or upset, right? So yes, obviously we're gonna come together and talk about things. Like, that's what I would want. Not just brush me off, and even if it was my fault or not my fault, but actually let's just sit down and have that conversation. And just, yeah, it's gonna be hard because people don't want to do that. People don't want to have those conversations. And I believe that's why a lot of people don't have those great relationships, because they don't have those conversations when it, that person you're with or around, it might be best to have that conversation, and you break free in a way, right? So you get to see the real side of each person, and you can come together at a deeper level. That's what I would love to have, if it's, yeah, or if you're angry, right? It could be anything, but let's just have that conversation. And that's what I would love to have when somebody comes to me all upset or, out of frustration. I have kids too, and they'll come to me too, and they're frustrated or upset over something, and I have to just, be their father and take it in a different spectrum, right? I have to think differently than what they are, and sit down, calm down, just tell me about it. Let's talk this out.
Mm-hmm. So, because oftentimes when women are emotional, like we don't want things to be fixed. Like we're not looking for, maybe not right away. We might actually, like, once we actually release and let all the emotions flow, then it's like, okay, well, yes, please fix it. But like in the beginning, it's like, so how does that dynamic play out for you?
Yeah, so in that way, I would have to listen to what you have to say and just be there,
Mhm.
right? And just let it out. That's what it is, right? Because you're having it all built up inside of you, and now you just got to spill the beans, share whatever it is, and I have to, I don't have to, but it's best to, right? Just receive it, take in the good parts, and obviously, I don't know everything about Allison, but what do you want me to take away from this conversation? Whether that's what I need to understand and just remember. But yeah, it's just allowing that space for the woman to open up, and because if you're closed up and you're not sharing everything, it's just going to escalate. You're going to hold it in, and something else is going to happen the next day or whatever. And then,
Yeah.
years or whatever down the road, everything just flows out all at once, right? So let's just get through each day at one moment at a time.
And has that been always the case for you, or is it because, and when you mentioned Allison, I just want to say, like, to the people who are listening, we're talking about Allison Armstrong, and she has what's her, oh, it's called oh yeah, understandmen.com, or I think she changed it, it's taxprograms.com. Anyways, and she basically did, I think, oh my gosh, over 30 years of research, men research. And I mean, her work is just brilliant, so that's what we were talking about. So were you this way before you studied with Allison, or is it like a new revelation for you?
It's new. I also want to say that I believe I tried to do that, let's have conversations, but it just didn't happen in the past. But yeah, definitely, you know, within the past 4 years, everything, changing for me, diving into this stuff. I wish I knew all this when I was like in my 20s or teenager years, right? And we all should, in a sense. And I believe that's how it's going to turn out to be in the future. But yeah, it's definitely, after we go through something in our lives, we always want to change things, or we hope so. And diving into stuff like this and, physical, all that, whatever, any area that you're looking at can change you and change the people that you're around and look at things totally different.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Okay, so let's keep talking about this, because this, like women, as you said, we're very emotional beings,
Mhm.
and so our emotions are really important to us. Um, so, and then there's this what is it called? Like basically, there's this way of thinking that men are afraid of angry women. Like when a woman is angry, it's like men are like, just like, so like, what's your relationship with a woman's anger? And
I would,
obviously there's two, sorry to interrupt, two obviously, like two facets. She might be angry at you, or she just might be angry at whoever, not at you. So like those two.
right. I think first of all, we would have to we don't want that woman to be angry, right? So that's probably why we're like, oh, what the heck's going on? Let me try fix this, figure out the problem, right? That we know that. Uh, but then, yeah, so you got to give them space. But if that's what the woman wants to, just walk away. And if you had to come back later to talk about things, great. But as a man and she being angry, it makes us wonder, it makes us think, what did we do wrong? Because we don't want to do everything. We don't want to be wrong, really. We want to try and do everything right because we're here to support and provide and have a relationship and continue to grow. So I would say that's for me, I would think, first of all, is it me? What did I do something wrong? And then we probably won't know the answer to that till we have a conversation, if we have that.
Yeah, yeah. So basically, you're not the kind of man who just like shuts down and Right? It's okay.
No, I probably would be questioning it 3 or 4 times, right? And, where the woman's gonna get upset and leave me alone, but in that same case, then that's when you could have your boundaries set up so that, hey, look, if I'm angry at you, let's come back in 15 minutes, we could talk, right? And these are
Mm,
the questions and everything you should be talking about now if you're looking for a partner or whatever, instead of waiting 6 months or whatever down the road. And so, yeah, so I would say I was that person in the past where I would just keep on asking, asking, asking. And it could be irritating, I'm sure, because it's irritating for me when I'm like, I'm done. Like, if there's nothing to talk about, we're good.
mhm. Cool. Okay. Well, that sounds good. All right. Um, so you said you're a single father, which I'm assuming means that, well, and you told me before we started recording that you went through a divorce. What is there anything, you know, it obviously you learn things. It's such a huge, life change. So like, what would you say were the lessons, kind of like the most important lessons that you learned from, how your relationship went?
So I guess if I was to look back in the past, I guess it would be, it wouldn't be what I'm looking for now, right? Because we never really had those hard conversations in the beginning before we got married and stuff. Um, like now I have the values, mission, and vision. Like, is this next person going to be in alignment with me? Because that's what would be best, instead of button heads the whole time. Um, Other things would be, uh, you know, I think it's just, I think sometimes it's just how life goes, right? So you think you're around the right person at that one time. You're not maybe exploring, at least it wasn't really for me, right? It took years before I even proposed, but it was just, I don't know. I believe for me, I was growing up, like, you were meant to have a job, all that stuff, get married, have kids, a house, and all that great stuff, like that's part of life. That's like how some of us are born and raised to learn. And for me, it was also hard to even consider a divorce because everybody on my father's side went through a divorce, and I told myself I would never. So I would always tried hard, or I believe I tried hard in the relationship for as long as up till the end. But yeah, so it was nothing I ever really wanted to happen, especially even have kids. Um, the learning lessons, yeah, I mean, like you and I both know it. I mean, like I went through some stuff and I got to explore and learn new things, and I could see how people are communicating with each other or they're not. A lot of people are just in these relationships just because of finances for whatever reason. That does not make sense to me. So that's why, who knows where this road's gonna take me, but I want it to be that connection. I want a deep connection and just us keep growing and keep moving forward. That's what I see in the future. And for me, it would also be definitely somebody that supports the things I'm doing, which has to be in alignment too. Like, we don't have to do the same things, but support, and hey, how was your day? Let's have your back, that's what I love to see now. Um, for me, I'll be honest with you, looking back, I mean, through the relationship, I never even would have thought anything, right? But now after it's over, looking back, you can kind of see like all the broken pieces that were just there that could have been fixed, but it just never got fixed.
Mhm. Interesting. So, like, would you say that, especially like, when couples have kids, little kids, I mean, it's so busy, and like, would you say it's a good idea to have structured conversations where like I don't know, let's say in the evening after the kids go to bed, you sit down and talk about things. So it's like not just leave it to chance, but actually have established structures where you can connect and communicate. And like, would you say that's important in a
I do.
relationship?
I would, yeah. And I would say that was missing, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
I, get up, go to
Mhm.
work, come home, take care of the kids, to the house, and then go to bed is pretty much what it was. Watch a movie or whatever, right? And what you're not building anything there. So yeah, I think that's very important, whether it's in the morning or the evening, you just wrap up the day, talk to each other, get to know each other's lives. And then I know there's a big thing about like date night, and everything, but it doesn't have to be like the expensive stuff, but you do have to be around each other. Life is going to take you in all these directions, and then you're separating yourself from the one that you love, right? And that doesn't help. Same with the kids, like, you need to spend quality time with them too, right? So that stuff should be like first. It should be on the board first, and then you fill in the rest.
I like that. Yeah, so it's like, so basically what I'm hearing is the relationship needs to be the priority.
Yeah.
If the relationship to last, we have to make it a priority. Otherwise, it's like really easy. And especially now, life is so busy and so chaotic. Like it's really easy
Mhm.
to get pulled away. Mm. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Okay, so one thing that came up for me is, so you sound like communication is very important to you. Would you say that communication is the same as connection? Like, is that, because you see, women, well, I'm generalizing, but like, I would say like most women are very much into connection. Connection is very important. Like we're constantly trying to establish connection. Like that's where we talk a lot. One of the reasons we talk so much is because it creates connection. So like what is your relationship to, like, is connection important to you? First of all, how how do you experience it? Like what causes you to experience connection with a woman? And so three questions. Is communication the same as or maybe like, does open communication provide you with the experience of connection?
Uh, yes and no. So I would say communication is definitely words being transpired between each other, right? And that part you have to understand what each person is saying. So as you probably already know too, like if you were to say something to me, I should be like, hey, in my head, I'm like, look, if I don't understand what you're saying, I should be repeating back to you what you're saying to me, so that, is this what you mean? Because I'm thinking things totally different than what you're saying. Same thing goes with, and a great example is just texting somebody, right? There's no emotion behind it. And I could read that text totally different than what you're saying. Could get pissed off or whatever, and, and we're mad at each other for no reason whatsoever. Uh, that's so communication is, I believe, understanding each other, doing things in life, right? And talking about it. That's what communication is. Connection, I could believe, is spending time with that person, at a deeper level, right? And yes, obviously you're talking about women connecting, and yes, maybe that would be why they're talking so much and they want to connect, but there's that time you're together, you're spending that time, and you're probably just telling me everything, and I'm just listening, right? And you love that. Like that's what makes you go, oh, this is great. He didn't even say a word, and he's a great listener, and I probably didn't hear a word at all, right? Um, but it's that, and that guy that's going to give the quality time to sit there and just allow that woman to share. Because if she doesn't share with him, she's going to go share with a girlfriend or somebody else, and that other, that's, I believe, she would gravitate to. And if somebody's just going to get shut down, then that, I believe, would absolutely happen. So yeah, connection for me is being together, spending that quality time, whether it's intimate or, and intimate could just be going for a walk, holding hands or something, right? It doesn't have to be anything, in the bedroom or nothing like that. but that's what I believe. And yeah, and we tangle the two together, right? We tend to twist them where we both think we think it's the same thing. I don't think it is.
Interesting. Yeah. Like I was thinking what, because what you just said, yeah, it's very true. It's like if a guy listens to me, um, even if he doesn't say like a word, I feel so good. Like I feel so happy. I like him so much when I can just like talk, 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 talk. But then there's more to it. It's not just talking. It's not like I mean, definitely the superficial stuff, because I think you might remember from Allison's course, women, we kind of like, we're like baskets. We like accumulate, we kind of like, we go through the day and we just collect things and put it, and then we have so much inside, like we just have to um, get it out. So the superficial conversations are important too, but like for me, what helps me feel connection with a man is if I can be vulnerable with him, and it's not just a man actually, with anybody, like with people in general, like if I can be vulnerable and talk about kind of like personal things, but also if a guy is vulnerable with me, which doesn't happen very often. Well, yeah, I would say for the most part, the men that I talk to like to hear me talk about vulnerable things, but it's pretty rare for men to share something vulnerable. Like, what's your take on that? Like, what's happening there?
Yeah, if you're asking me what if men are being vulnerable or not, I would say most of them are not. A lot of them are probably saying don't because the woman doesn't like that, right? You hear all this everywhere. Then there's other sides of it where other people are saying, be vulnerable, be open, be honest, be you, because that's what it's supposed to be, right? And as a man, we're not supposed to cry or whatever, show emotions like that. That's just BS too. We're all human, right? Uh, it's been ingrained through all the years that we're supposed to just be strong and tough, and you know, there's a lot of stuff that we don't share. It's in our head because we're trying to make sure that life goes good for the woman, right, and the family, and I'll just sit here with all the crap in my head trying to figure things out, seeing how it's gonna play out. And because if I throw that on you, as a woman, you're either gonna think I can't take care of anything, and you're just gonna not like it, walk away or whatever, or you're gonna think I'm crazy, right? Uh, but I also think that if we are in a relationship, you should be willing to allow the man to open up and share because you're in this together. That's how I look at it. I do like the one thing I've seen before where, you find somebody you can go to battle with, and you're on the same mission, same path, and you're just charging along with each other. Like that's how it should be. So there should be no fear of anything going on whatsoever. And then you can live, you can be happy, you not have to worry about, anything going on with that person stabbing you in the back or anything like that. Um, so I going through everything and learning stuff and yeah, be vulnerable. I'm here talking to you now. Like I don't know how many men you're gonna get that does this. I have no idea. Uh, Hopefully there's quite a few out there, and I feel like more in my circle, the people I'm learning and connecting with, they are in the same ballpark as I am, where they're just being themselves, opening up and sharing their authenticity.
That's such a, I'm so happy we're talking about this, because women, yeah, you see, it's like a paradox, because women, I mean, how many women keep asking men to talk about their emotions? But you see, there's like a difference. No, it's not a difference really, like, because vulnerability is emotion, isn't it? Like express, yeah. So like women want to like they constantly want men to talk about emotions, like I hear so many complaints from women that the guy doesn't talk about his emotions, you know. But then what you just brought up, it's like, it's so true. It's like, so women want, on one hand, we want to hear your emotion, like talk about your emotions. On the other hand, a lot of women don't want to hear certain emotions because like it scares them, you know. So I can see the paradox here. Yeah, so it's like when for a relationship to be really strong, I think it's important for us as women to also like open up, you know. We can't just want the guy to talk about his emotions but like reject some of the emotions. Like it has to be, if there's going to be vulnerability in the relationship, then everything has to be welcomed. Yeah. I like it. You know, I have a little funny story about men and emotions. So I grew up with a father. I think I no, I never saw him cry. I never in my life seen him cry. One time when my great grandma passed away, his eyes were like a little bit red. So I kind of like, that's the only way I could tell he had some sort of an emotion. So I grew up believing that men don't have emotions. And I know it sounds really weird, but I literally did not think that men have feelings. Until, and it wasn't that long ago, it was about like 15 years ago. One of my friends, his father, had to go into a nursing home. Like he had like some health challenges. And so my friend was crying, but because I never seen a man cry, so like his face was, you know, shaking, you know, like when you cry, you kind of like your face gets red and it's shake. And that's what was happening to his face. And but I had no clue what was going on. And I asked him, I was like, what's happening with your face? And he was like, what do you mean? I'm crying. And I was like, I thought he was having a stroke. I literally had no idea what was going on. So, anyways, but that just like shows you how, I mean, I think nowadays things are starting to change in that regard, but yeah, like our society, men in society, like it's very rare for men to actually express emotion. So, and very interesting.
It is.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so next question. I have a different question now. Um, how, because a lot of women nowadays they want to be independent, right? And not need a man. Like that's what I hear a lot. It's like, oh, I don't need a man. I mean, Miley Cyrus, you know, Miley Cyrus, that song, you know, I can buy myself flowers. I can, you know, I can love myself better than you can, right? What's your take on that? Not Miley Cyrus, but like the
Yeah.
not being needed by a woman. Like, what's your, how does that
Yeah.
impact?
So it's okay to be independent, right? And do your own thing, but you could do it together in a relationship. As far as you can pursue your own stuff and still have somebody to support you and back you up, right? So if you're going to start a new career, you know, and you're go ahead, go for it, you know, your husband or boyfriend or whatever, you know, should be there and yeah, go ahead, you know, you're okay. Um, However, you know, doing all that kind of stuff, you're venturing out into a new world, you know, if you better have that relationship where you're together and you talk about everything because you're meeting new people, you don't know what you're going to run into and things could come up, right? So, um, this whole being independent kind of thing, yeah, I'll be honest with you, everything I hear on the men's side is they still want to provide and protect, and they'd rather have the woman stay at home if needed, because then there's nothing out there that can change your mind. Like there's no greener grass on the other side or whatever, right? Uh, yeah, that's unfortunately that's what some people pursue for whatever reason. And you know that there's obviously reasons for certain things, but like for instance, like I have a daughter, right? She's 12. So do I want her to be successful and have an awesome life? Yeah. Whatever that is, I don't know, whatever she decides to pursue. Now, I would love to have somebody stand by her side and support her and guide her and take care of her as much as possible, even if it came down to where she didn't have to go to work or whatever because they started a family. Like that's what I believe it should. It's kind of like the old days in a sense, right? We kind of lost that along the way in the past, I don't know, 20 years or whatever, right? You know, the father always went to work, provided for the family, and we were able to live off of one income. Now we need two, sometimes three, depending on where you're at. Things are tough. Uh, but yeah, and if that woman's going to be independent, she's going to be inner masculine, she's going to be strong. And I'll tell you what, I run into those women that are like that, and I don't want to go anywhere near them because I'll be working forever just to bring them back into their femininity, and it's not worth the effort. And this is me just like talking to them. You can tell where they're coming from. It's not like, I need to let's start a relationship or anything. It's just like a simple hi, this is what I'm doing, this is my job, this is what I'm focused on. Like, so you can see that, and men don't want to deal with that. Like they don't. So that's why all these women are single. They're all independent and they're all in this feminist act of, being themselves. I do believe, talking to a lot of people now that things are changing. It's a slow change, but it will eventually get back to the way it was, if not better. But we are stuck here in what it is, where a lot of women just want to be independent and they don't need a man. I'll be honest, I don't need a woman, right? I don't do I want one? Sure, but I don't need one either, right? But I do see that it's best, in my opinion, to have two, one come, a male and a female come together and have that relationship. Like it just makes sense. Like we're created for this. So that's what I think. I think, excuse me, I think with the way, I'm in the US, so the way that the government is playing things out, I do believe that there is a way that things are being divided, where now they're splitting the sexes to be against each other. And that's what makes men be lonely and go do other things that they shouldn't be doing and sit at home. And then women are just out trying to, yeah, I got this, I can have this career and take care of myself. So what do I need a man for? Those are my thoughts. It's a lot, but yeah, that's what I have.
Yeah, I think that's very important. So let's keep talking about it because
Sure.
this is huge. Because okay, so here's like I'm listening, and because I'm one of those, I'm okay. So I lived most of my life wanting to be independent, and my experience was exactly what you're talking about. It's like because I was very masculine, and I thought that that's what men wanted, and but that didn't seem to be the case at all. It's like it pushed men away. So then I kind of like started shifting out of the masculine mode and kind of went more into the feminine mode. And then I started hearing people talk about how men actually, because like I would be quite happy in a relationship where the man was the provider. Uh, and I mean, I still like making money. It's not to say that I don't want to work. I do want to work. But I would be quite happy to have the man as the provider. He's in charge of the money, and I like my income can be like the bonus, like vacations, whatever. And things, and it would give me freedom to do what I want to do instead of constantly asking the man, oh, honey, can I have this? Like it feels so awful to have to like ask for permission to buy something. So from that perspective. So, but then I started hearing not men, women. Women started telling me how men actually want a woman. Like they don't want a woman who does not work, does not have her own income. But you're saying that is different, unless. I'm misunderstanding you.
I'm saying I think it's best that the woman is home or whatever, taking care of things and just living that life like she is in her feminine then at the most, right? Now, I'm not against a woman working, like, you know, like I said, it's kind of tough now where it's hard for to have a family, whatever, and only one income. So I would never be against that because obviously I'd be supporting that person to go ahead and do what they want to do anyways. Let's just be on the same page and talk about things, right? So if you're going to go out and work, you're in your masculinity pretty much working all day long. So now you got to come home and get back to your feminine, and that could be a struggle because you've been in that mode all day. Obviously, there's ways that we can make that change, but and same thing for me, right? So I have to come home, not be angry if I had a bad day at work. I got to just relax a little bit before I start talking to the kids and stuff and just, hey, how was your day? Let's have dinner or whatever. Um, yeah, so by any means, from whatever I say, a woman can go ahead and have a job and do whatever she wants. Like that's her life. Like she gets to do whatever she wants. And now I wouldn't take that away from her. That would be part of the relationship we would have in the beginning would be go, are you willing to do this or not? Right. And that's the discussions you have.
Mhm.
I hope that puts some clarity on that.
Yeah, so basically you're saying that because like, okay, I think obviously, it was probably uh not the same for every woman, but like I think that the reason feminism, the feminist wave started to happen is because the way it was in the past, it's like women were trapped, just trapped financial, because like the men provided and women had like no way to provide for themselves, meaning like they basically had to rely on a man, and some men were really nice and some men were not nice, so and women decided, okay, well, we don't want to be in that situation anymore, so we want to kind of like become independent. So I can see why it happened, but I can also see what you're saying. It's like now it's out of balance. Now women are, it's like it's very complicated, it's a very complicated topic because it's like we want our freedom, but at the same time, yeah, like it's hard to stay feminine because like when I work, I'm a manager typically, like I manage teams and I have to be very masculine, like I have to, and actually, now that I think about it, anytime, because like I take on projects, then I take a break, then I take a new project. So like anytime I have a project, things get harder in my relationship because I just become very like I have no patience, it's like I have much less. Yeah, I can see what you're talking about. So it's like it's so challenging though, like to balance work and being feminine. It's like a paradox, but I can see what you mean. So yeah, so to the women who are listening to this, like take this into consideration. Like what you're saying doesn't sound, because often women say, "Oh, he's just a misogynist," he just like wants to. But what you're saying doesn't sound like that at all. It's like you're saying that you want to support a woman to do what makes her happy, and if working makes her happy, then you would support that. It's just you're saying that what's important to you is to not have a woman who behaves like a man. Like that's
Yeah.
kind of what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd be expecting you to come home with those hard days but let's just like plan a night to have fun or whatever. Let's go, and talk it out or whatever it takes. Uh, Especially like you said in the manager role, you're probably tensed up all day and you take it home with you, you carry it with you, and that can hurt relationships. It can. Um, so yeah, and for me as an example, when I was sharing, like I come across women that I feel are in the masculine, like that, it's a turn off. Like it doesn't help. It almost feels like there's a huge barrier or force field, something so strong that you can't break through. And if you can, it's going to take a very long time for me to try to break through, right? Because then I'm the one that's kind of trying to bring you down to a certain level, and you're just not hearing me. So that's how I've seen things.
So what what turns you off about masculinity in a woman is that you like you can access her, like you can't, that's kind of what I'm hearing. Is that
Yeah,
right?
we can't talk. We can't have, yeah. She's not free flowing, right? She should be happy and energetic, and obviously you're gonna be upset sometimes and whatnot, but like that's what feminine is. Like you're going with the energy. That's really what it is.
Exactly.
And yeah, and to not have that, and you have a structure, like I am working tomorrow, I gotta do 8 to 5, I have all these assignments, I gotta come home, I gotta cook dinner, I gotta do this and do that, and obviously the man's chipping in somewhere, I would hope, but still, that's a struggle for a man to get through and go, okay, is it our turn to just sit down and relax now because it's been such a long day? She's tired. She's done. She's exhausted. She's going to bed and do it all over again, right? As what a man should be doing, because that's what a man does. He'll go home, go to bed, wake up, and do it all over again, and go through all the hard times in his masculinity, right?
That's so interesting. That's so interesting. Wow. I'm so happy we're talking about this because like I think we need to hear this. This is amazing. So okay, so then the question is, so how does femininity impact you? Like what, because I mean, it's obvious that you love, it just makes you, feminine energy makes you feel so good. So
Yeah,
what?
yeah. So like as a woman, when I podcast, so when I'm interviewing people and you can tell who I'm talking to on the other side, when they're happy and they're laughing, they're giggly and stuff like and they're just there. Like, and that's when we have a better conversation. I believe so. When it's somebody that's just gotten off of work and they're tense and they want to have an interview still, it's hard to pick at them and have them tell you things because
Mm,
they're not just it's not a free flowing conversation. And I'm using this as an example with the podcast because I do it more often, connecting with people all over the world. So it's not just like in the US whatsoever. But yeah, so it brings us like, or me, I guess, in a way, like a state where I can talk, we can share things, we can go back and forth. Because when I have these conversations, it's not just about the person on the other side sharing things. I share stuff about my life too, so we can have that conversation. We can go back and forth. Um,
mhm.
that's what it makes me as a man come back to reality in a sense, right? And I mentioned this, the energy, right? It brings you back down to like getting grounded to that level of just being happy and enjoying life because that's what I believe the feminine side is. Even though you have those bad and tough days, the feminine side is going to think of all these bad things and everything that's going to play out and go wrong, but it's not. It's just so what I mean. Yeah, it's so true. Uh, so yeah, that's what the feminine side does. It brings me to that level of just like ease, right? Because I think the woman that is in that state can do that very easily, especially when the man has been in a masculine for so long, all day long.
Interesting. So it's like it's almost like you're saying that you can rest when you're around feminine
Yeah,
energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can relax and even if you didn't conquer the world, you have tomorrow, but you did your best.
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, this is very helpful. Thank you. I'm so
Mhm.
happy. Like women really need to hear this. Okay, so next question is then what when a woman complains, because like sometimes, as you said, we're not in a good mood, and if a woman complains, and specifically about you, I mean, about you, uh, yeah, so like first, yeah, let's talk about that. So like, let's say she's like complaining about something you did wrong. or didn't do, something you should have done, you should have known that you should have done this, but you didn't do it. So how does that impact you?
All right, so she's complaining to me for something I did wrong and didn't do it. First, I would probably step back a little bit, right? Don't get angry, don't get upset. Try to take it in, look at it from her perspective, and then try to realize exactly it wasn't me, right? Because going through this stuff, was it really me that she's upset about? Is it something else? Or it could have been stuff I did 2 days ago, right? That she held in because we didn't have that connection, that communication of talking it out. She'll probably need space. She'll probably just need to, give each other space. And I don't know, maybe that woman would open up at the end, later before, because I believe you shouldn't go to bed when you're angry, right? You should figure things out before you go to bed. And to have that talk, it could be just so simple. It could be so minor of whatever the woman is upset about. Uh, as long as she's got to open up though, and not be closed off. So if she comes at you complaining, I'm sorry, I'm spinning this around in my head. Uh, if she, I would have to just, I already said it, like I would have to just step back, make sure, allow her to do what she has to do, express her emotions. If it's the behaviors and the actions that are start to escalate, then there's a problem, I think. Um, where she starts throwing things or whatever, like what is that about? It shouldn't even be that. It should be just, yeah, you can point, you can yell or whatever, but I wouldn't really accept that. Like I wouldn't like to be yelled at. Because if what would you like me to yell at you? No, because you're gonna be scared because you think I'm gonna beat you up or whatever. And that's something I've learned too. I didn't know women were scared of men everywhere they go because they have no power, right? As a man, I don't think that. Uh, so yeah, so there's so much that could go on within whatever is coming up. And these are probably the reasons why I would pursue somebody that's probably went down the same path of learning things or wants to, so that there's some kind of relationship there where we are trying to work on things together and grow in this area as far as like complaining and getting mad at each other. Because like I said, I know you wouldn't want me to come yelling at you and raising a fist, because then your next thing is thinking I'm going to hit you or do something totally terrible after that.
Yeah, yeah. It's so it's not that women don't have power. It's that men, we instinctively know that men are stronger because you guys are like, even, I mean, I don't know, maybe like if a woman is like a bodybuilder, like super masculine, maybe and the guy is like very skinny, and maybe then she might be stronger. But typically, a woman, our physiology is we're just, we're smaller. So, and yeah, it does feel like really when a man is angry, oh my God, it's terrifying. It's actually terrifying. Um, so basically, you're saying that you would prefer a woman to tell you, like, actually, why don't you tell, like, what would you prefer, like, instead of a woman complaining, because like women typically complain because that's our way, like we think that if we complain, then you'll do what we want you to do, which obviously doesn't
Uh,
work.
no,
So like what would you prefer, like what would be a better approach?
I prefer it would be like, hey, how come you didn't do this? I think it would be best if we did it this way. Would you agree? Right? And then we could, there's that conversation there, like, let's, okay, I agree, but I don't agree with this. Why are you looking at it this way? Right? And I know that sounds fishy or crazy or whatever, that has like these little conversations, come up, but I think it's important because then you're not talking about it again.
Yeah.
If it's if it's because you put the dish over here on the table and it should have been like 3 inches to the left, yeah, but let's talk about it instead of getting upset because it was 3 inches to the right. That's what I think. It's got to be it because those little things are going to add up, and that's what I don't want to happen because that's when the disaster hits.
Mhm. Okay, so basically, ask directly, basically, like that's what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
yeah. Why? Maybe you're getting frustrated and complaining it to me about something totally different, but you're taking it out on the bowl being to the right 3 inches.
Yeah.
You know, I get that, like because I'm there, you're expressing your feelings to me in front of me, even though you probably don't mean to do it to me. And I see that too. I see that, going around, right? And just like talking to people and it's you pick up on it, right? It's not you, and that's why um I don't know if you read it, the four agreements, right? You don't take things personally because that's what they're doing. And it's not just a woman, it's a man too. They're projecting things onto you, and it's not you. It's something else.
I like that. So basically, that's the theme of this interview. What I'm getting is conversation. You're very much into having conversation. I think it's great. I think so many upsets and relationship problems could be resolved if people just talk to each other. And
Yeah, that's what it is.
yeah,
But then
cool.
you start looking at like the things that could be wrong in the relationship and go, why is he doing that? What's going on? And you don't bring it up. You don't say anything. You
Yeah,
know, he's late coming home from work, or what's he doing? And that stuff stays in your head when all you have to go is like, oh, where were you? And just ask these simple questions. And same thing for the guy, you know.
cool. I like that. Okay. All right. So let's. Oh, okay. So two questions. How? Because you see, men often tell me, actually, not often, men always tell me. So far, I haven't had even one man who didn't say that. Men always say that they want to be asked directly. The problem with this is that women, we are not direct. We do not. This is just not our mode of, like, it's not how we're wired. We're not wired to ask directly. And so, what is direct communication? Give me an example. Like, what is a direct request so that, like, we can better understand how to
Sure.
frame.
No, I get it. Yeah, so it's like the bowl, for example, right? Tell me where you want me to put the bowl before I do it, and then it's wrong because you thought I was supposed to put it there where it wasn't your head, right? That's just simple things. And I know Allison had an example of like going to the grocery store, make sure you go to get the tomato paste or whatever, and it's down this aisle or whatever, right? And the woman spelled it out. It's here, this is what it looks like. And in that way, so that he doesn't mess up. Because if he went and got the wrong one, brought it home, you'd be all mad,
Yeah.
right? So why don't you just tell me exactly what you want? I'll get it for you, and we're good. Now, there could be things where a woman is like, okay, you have to go get something. I don't really know what it is. And the man already knows what it is because it's probably more based in his area. Let's just say fixing something at home, right, on the house or whatever. So he's already got it in his head where he's got to go and go get that. But she might be, trying to explain it to him, and so there's two different way paths there. I think the best way is just being direct. I know it's hard because you're not wired that way, and we're not wired in other ways as well. So that's where, with us learning that we don't receive things the same way, that's where we work on the communication part. And we talk to each other where, the one I love is like, the woman tells the man to put the food in the refrigerator after they're done eating dinner, right? You might have heard this already. And so, yeah, so the man just puts the pots and pans with the food in there in the refrigerator, because that's what we do. But she's all upset because we didn't put it in a Tupperware container first, and then put it in the refrigerator, and then put the pots and pans in the sink, soak them with water, clean them, whatever, right? So if she just said, do all that, he probably would have done all that, and there would be no issue. Uh, that's what I think. Same thing goes for the man too. Like, don't start thinking that the woman knows everything. If you're not going to spell it all out for her too, because I know there's probably men out there that don't say everything too.
Yeah, yeah. It's so interesting because it's I have this even now because I started, I've been practicing speaking directly since 2008.
Mhm.
So that's, what is it, 17 years? Is it 17? No, I'm not really good at it. Anyways, like for a while.
Yeah.
And to this day, I'm still baffled at how I think that what I'm saying is direct, and it's still not direct enough. Like it's still not, and like the way you just explain it, like because I would not, that's what I would do. I would say, put the food in the fridge. And to me, that's really direct. But like what you just, so it's like, oh my God, it's hard. But
So then that's when you should be asking your partner, like, do you understand what
right. All right, yeah, we had a little tech glitch here. Okay, so basically, to summarize, we need to be more direct. So I'm gonna have to practice more, even more direct. Okay, so thank you for that. So one more question, just last question. So if you could tell a woman anything, like if you could impart something like really important to a woman, what would it be? Like if you could just say anything.
if I could say anything as far as what, telling them how to be a woman?
No, just like any message, like anything that you want a woman to know
You mean like for people
about,
listening and wondering what men think and stuff?
yeah, just
Yeah,
like let's say if you wanted to give your daughter advice or, something kind of like a important life advice as it comes to
sure.
relationship with men.
Yeah, and so like that's a great way to like I love how you just shared with, what I would tell my daughter, right? Because a lot of people ask, what would I tell my younger self? Stuff like that, when it should be, no, what should you be telling your kids, right? And same thing goes for my son too, as far as like how he should be set up as a man or whatever, and provide and take care of a woman. Uh, yeah, for if I was to share something with my daughter as being a woman, is, basically a lot of stuff that we already kind of discussed is like being direct, being open and honest with your feelings, and do be prepared if the person that you're with is not the best person to be with, just in case they come at you in a different angle. Like, those are the relationships you don't want to be in. So with that being said, like, if you're going to look, I don't know who your audience really is, if they're single and stuff, but if you're looking for somebody, I think you having those deep questions, like, I don't know. I mean, you could say if it's in the first 2, 3 dates or whatever, and just get it out of the out of the ballpark and out of your system already, because why are you going to keep talking to this person and get all these butterflies for what, when down the road 6 months later you might be looking to get married and you're not in the relationship that you really want to be in, right? It's just that's how I see it. And I say this like, it sounds bold, but if it is, then those are the people that you probably aren't supposed to be hanging around with anyways, because they don't want to talk about this stuff. They just want to know what your favorite color is, what kind of fruit you like to eat. And then you have, something in common, and you're fun. You just go do things. I think that would be the best advice I can give somebody up front, even for my daughter, if she was to sit down and start to talk to somebody in the future. yes, it's gonna be weird if, you know, if I'm talking about like a teenager or whatever, right? Because they're not gonna want to listen anyways. But they're still so young. Um, but now, you know, and if she's gonna be sit down and being prepared and get married one day, like all this stuff better be figured out. You better know your values, mission, and vision. And yes, things will change along the way as you get older, but you should be in some kind of alignment now. It shouldn't wait till down the road that, yeah, this isn't working for me, or, you know, trying to figure out what the problem is because you didn't have these conversations up front. And I get like, I was totally against, you know, trying to go through a divorce, like, because I didn't want to see it happen, right? So I always felt like I was trying my best to, you know, keep it alive and everything like that. To get to that point, I mean, there was probably years prior to all that that just built up for whatever reason when it shouldn't have. So that's the, you know, being open, like don't hold things back. And, you know, again, we mentioned a lot of this stuff, you know, through this conversation. Um, you know, don't be afraid. And the man's got to not be afraid too. So he's got to be able to receive it, accept it, and provides feedback if that's what's being asked. I
I love
think
that.
those are the best things I can come up with at the moment.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you. Yeah, especially I really loved, I mean, both the entire answer is great. But especially like the being, you know, asking the deep questions like from the beginning instead of kind of, you know, because in the big typically people want to, you know, just not talk about serious things at first, like they want to make a good impression and all, but it's so true. It's like, why waste time with the wrong person? And not just waste time, but like you can get attached to the wrong person, and then like 10 years down the road you're like, but I knew from the beginning it was not the right fit, you know, or like,
Exactly.
yeah. So just awesome. Thank you so much, John. Was amazing. Just so helpful.
You're
We
welcome.
just, yeah, I get so much out of it, and I'm sure that the women who are going to be listening to it are going to also get a lot out of it. So yeah, I think very good, very complete, and thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
yeah, I'll just stop the recording.